What is happening, my sprudes and spruettes? We are back for episode 6 of Trapped Under Plastic. I'm John.
I'm Scott.
And we're here.
We're here.
We're going to start this.
We're not going to describe the layout of the podcast anymore.
But we can describe that we're not describing it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
We can also say that if you're just stumbling upon this podcast, this is the podcast for the miniature hobby enthusiast. And we'll keep it at that. And that's it.
That's good. That's
and
good.
if you're watching the video, you might notice a little change in the set. If you listen to the audio, maybe the audio quality got a little bit worse. My space in the basement where I shoot YouTube videos, which is where we also shoot the podcast, is in a state of transition.
It's in a new flowering version of its existence.
Yes. So we're trying to find an area to put the podcast, and we're trying this out with a whole table in between us, inspired by the likes of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast and other ones like it.
Yeah. We need more crap on the table if it was going to be more Joe Rogan-like, though.
Is there crap on the table?
It's like it's all over on the sides, and sometimes like he builds a wall of stuff depending on how much he likes the guest. Maybe that's in my brain, and that's how it works.
Yeah, they have like weird red velvet curtains like behind the guests too, or something like that.
Yeah. So I want to start this episode with a little story.
Okay. I always like stories.
Okay. So folks probably do not realize, and I wouldn't expect them to, that Scott and I don't exactly live super close to each other.
No.
Yeah, we live about 70 miles apart. And so when it's podcast day, I get in my truck and I drive. Usually takes me about an hour and 15, hour and a half to get here. Well, as it is now November in Minnesota, we got snow. Like, you didn't get much snow up here. When I left this morning, we had 4 inches of accumulation on the ground.
What?
And it was still coming down like mad. So as I got further north, the snow slowly tapered off.
Yeah.
But, once we hit November in Minnesota, it quickly becomes this Arctic wasteland akin to north of the wall.
Yeah.
So,
AKA Canada.
Right. Well, it was a Game of Thrones reference.
No. Yeah. Right.
Oh, right. Canada.
Canadians are white lockers, apparently.
It makes sense with maple syrup. So it was a little bit slow going there. It ended up taking me 2.5 hours to get here.
Yikes.
And it wasn't because of the weather so much. Once I got most of the way here and the ground was basically bare, you just had a little dusting of snow, I hit bumper to bumper traffic for almost an hour where idiots just drive like they're the bus in Speed and it's made of bomb. And they just I don't understand the mental prowess that it takes to just swerve into bridge embankment. And it's just, I get so mad. I was so mad. I'm like, this is not a good mental space.
Was this 35E?
No, this was 52.
The entire way 52 was the problem?
Yes, the entire way. Once I got onto 94, it cleared up. And here's the story behind it clearing up.
Okay.
So I am like white knuckle rage. I'm usually pretty happy guy, but sometimes some things just trigger me, and I was pretty triggered. I was so ticked off. I was thinking bagels this morning, as is tradition.
Right. Normally we do breakfast.
Yep. And I'm like, we ain't gonna have time for that.
Yeah. That's okay.
We got stuff to do. And so I'm just bare knuckle rage. I'm like, look, I'm gonna click through the radio and I'm gonna see if I can find a song that will change my mood.
Okay.
And the second station I stopped on was playing.
Can I guess?
Okay.
Trapped Under Ice?
No. No, that would have been great. Man, I should have made that up. That would have been a way better story. It was playing Africa by Toto.
Oh my gosh.
And so I don't know if anybody does this other than me. Comment either in the comments below or join our Facebook group.
Oh. We'll talk about that a little bit.
We'll talk about that a little bit and comment. Is anybody else, if you're driving, especially by yourself, or you're in your hobby room, a song comes on, you ever make your own music video in your head?
Oh. Not while I'm listening to the music, but I mean, I've thought about in the past as a fun video project just to make a music video for a song that already exists, but I don't do it while I'm singing or listening to it.
Okay. All right.
This is a John thing.
Yeah, just me. Okay. I'm hoping I'm not the only one. But so in my head, I'm playing out Africa, which is, as I interpret it, it's about a man that will cross the plains of Africa just to get to his woman.
Okay.
But in my version, we're in the Arctic wasteland, and I am trudging through the snow in a blizzard. And far off in the distance, there's this lone cabin. You can just see the one light with the window that's coming from the fireplace, this reddish glow. And sitting huddled beside that fireplace with a microphone in front of him is Scott. And he's waiting for me to record a podcast.
Yeah. I sent him a picture of the fully set up set, and I was like, I'm ready for you. And you were still like 45 minutes out.
Yeah. And so I that made me laugh.
You're the one crossing the frozen tundra.
Right.
Okay,
yeah. It wasn't Africa. It was the frozen wasteland. It wasn't
the snow down in Minnesota.
Yeah. It wasn't my love. It was a nerd with a microphone.
All right. Awesome.
So then that got me through the last 30 minutes of the drive.
Well, you made it here. We're doing it. And that's all that matters.
Right. So basically, the summary of this is that thank you to our patrons for paying for the gas for my truck to get here.
Yeah. Not the greatest fuel economy on that beast. What is it? 21 on the highway?
24.
Okay. But when you're in traffic, I assume
it's 18, 16. Yeah.
Oh, that's a little bit better than I thought it would be. But all right. In other news, we hinted at this, but there is a Facebook group for all you sprudes and spruettes to share what you guys have painted in the last 2 weeks. Whenever we put out an episode, we kind of pose that question for ourselves and also for our community. Mm-hmm. So it's linked in the description and in the show notes as well if you're listening, so you can go check it out and join.
Yeah, and we've already, even though we haven't spread the word on it too vastly yet, we already have a ton of people in there, and folks are sharing their work, and they're getting CNC, and we're getting some good traffic, some good feedback, some really awesome painters, and so I'm happy to have it.
Yeah, another mention that I just thought of right now, because you made a reference to speed earlier. Yeah. And I don't know if this is a thing, but I think you make a lot of references. Maybe you don't. Maybe you make a normal amount of references. But there was a reference last episode that I did not get that I got lambasted for in the comment section. And that was to Altered Beast and Double Dragon.
Yeah, you got Double Dragon crucified.
Yeah, I did. So one of my best friends, Ian, commented, and he said, I was born a day after Scott, and I still know Double Dragon and Altered Beast. And that's true. And so I looked it up. I was like, okay, what the heck is this? Mm-hmm. I was like, is that a movie? It's a console video game. Yeah. And the reason why I don't know this is because I wasn't allowed to have consoles as a child. Yeah, my first gaming experience was Warcraft 3 on the computer when I was a fifth grader.
That's a pretty good first experience.
Yeah, but never had... the first console I had was a PS2 when I was a sophomore in high school. So I missed the whole old console thing. Does that redeem me at all?
No.
All right.
But I empathize. Okay. I empathize with you. I also had a friend growing up that his parents wouldn't let him have consoles. So you do what any good red-blooded American would do is you hang out with your friends.
Yeah, you let him have your console and hang out and play. Yeah. And that's what Ian did for me. I mentioned earlier. Went over to his house and played all kinds of video games. Metal Gear Solid, everything.
There you go. Yeah, and Double Dragon did become a movie, which I would encourage you to not watch because it's as bad as it sounds.
It seems like Arnold Schwarzenegger would be in it.
No, they're kind of karate bros. I mean, it's kind of like Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter kind of vibe.
I understand that reference.
Okay, go. Yeah, if you didn't get that one, you're going to be in trouble.
I've always been more of a PC game elitist anyways, so if I didn't understand a console reference, I'd just be like, I don't care.
It's only in the origin of the entire hobby. Well, technically, it would be...
You think Street Fighter is the origin?
Arcade cabinets would be the origin, and then home versions, consoles from there.
Okay.
Like
I
you
think
wouldn't have computer games if not for
the hobby as in gaming.
Yes.
Okay.
Video gaming.
I got you. I was like, the hobby as in miniature painting, like arcade cabinets, but no.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, like, I mean, I don't know, it was super expensive to own a computer.
Yeah.
So even though my dad worked for IBM and we eventually got one.
You got a supercomputer.
Right. It
filled up one of your bedrooms.
Yeah. It was the basement. His name was Carl. But so yeah, it was, I mean, I was a Nintendo kid, but Sega does what Nintendo don't. So so I was.
Did you just make that up, or is that a thing?
Well, that's advertising for Sega in the late
that's
80s.
Nice. That's nice.
Yeah, it's very good. So anyway, let's get off of this video game stuff.
We haven't talked about miniature painting at all, and we are probably 20
minutes in.
Yeah, we're like 10 minutes in, 12 minutes in. All right, so the first thing we do in this podcast is talk about what we've painted in the last 2 weeks. And I always ask you to go first, so I'll go first this time just to take some heat off of you. I had Mantic, the game company, reach out to me to paint something up for the release of their 3rd edition of Kings of War. And there's a concept in miniature wargaming, not just in Kings of War, but in all wargaming, called multi-basing. You know what this concept is? Yeah, so it's the idea where you can have an entire unit on a single base, and then you probably use some token or some indicator as to how many wounds that like unit has taken, so you can keep track of it. The alternative being like Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar, where every single model has its individual base, and then when a unit dies, you just remove the whole model. So I was aware of it, but I had forgotten about it for a long time. And so they reached out to me and they're like, do you want to make a video where you kind of do a video about like the art of multi-basing? And I was like, that sounds like right up my alley. I love basing. And so like cool. The opportunity to do like almost like I want to call it a gaming diorama.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm pouring my heart and soul into it, but it's way cooler than an individual 32 mil diameter base could ever be. You can't fit an igloo on that, right? So yeah, I made a big base with 3 igloos on it, and I put a bunch of dudes on it. And so what I painted was the base, but I also batch painted a unit of 15 of these like tribesmen or Inuit or whatever they were, these frosty gals and guys. And I haven't batch painted something in a long time, and I hate it. It sucks. I made a video about the process and kind of revisited contrast paints again for the purposes of speed painting. Even like with all these tricks and whatnot, it still felt like it took forever.
It's still daunting.
I don't know. 15 guys probably took me like 20 to 30 hours. That seems too long.
Oh, God.
Right? That seems wrong.
You can't multiply that by a number that we can accomplish in a weekend for an army.
Yeah, right? So I got to figure something out. I don't know. Maybe prep is really important when it comes to painting armies. But I didn't have any prep. I just kind of jumped into it and kind of guessed what would work best. But yeah, that's what I painted.
I think that having your own mini diorama with your unit, like that looks so much cooler than what just those guys on the base and you put some snow and it was all flat would look.
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe like a rock or a tuft. Another thing that I was kind of getting heat for on that base, not really, but a little bit, is just this idea of MMC, minimum model count. Apparently the base I got was a horde base, and to have it be accurate, it needs minimum model count of 75% of what's expected to be on the base plus 1. So for a horde base, it's 40 models. 3/4 being 30, plus 1 being 31. So to be legal for Kings of War, it would need 31 or something like that. Maybe it's not 40, maybe it's 30. But I was told 15 dudes, so I did 15. But it didn't really matter. Like the whole spirit of the video is about the diorama of the base.
What you tell your opponent is the rest of them are in the igloos.
Yeah, damn it. Exactly.
They're there.
Most people were like, if I was playing you in the games of Kings of War, I'd be totally okay with it because it just looks cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't know that, but yeah, there are like base sizes, and based on what size the base is, I just said base like 7 times. You have to have a certain amount of minis on it. So
base.
I learned that.
Song of Ice and Fire does the similar tray kind of thing too, don't they? Although they still have their, I think they still have their individual bases too. And didn't Warhammer Fantasy used to have that, where they had like the big square things, but you put all your ranks in there on their individual bases?
Yeah, so they had this thing called movement trays, but it was nothing more than a tray. The models slotted perfectly into it. Some people, myself included, would paint the edge of the movement tray to match the base of the guys inside of it, so it looked like one giant chunk of like terrain that's moving around. But it was nothing like this. Like the Song of Ice and Fire has like inserts to put the models in, similar to the square movement tray thing, but the bases are circle.
Oh, okay. So they can
similar.
They're little holes where they all fit in there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And third-party companies do that for GW too. You can get the movement
things,
which I use because when I'm pushing 120 skeletons across the board, doing that one at a time, not very fun.
Soon to be less OCR skeletons.
Well, I'm looking about 80 or 90 in my army, so not a whole lot less.
I figured they're more elite skeletons, so it cost more in points, and there'd be less of them.
But the best melee unit in their whole army is the big blocks of 40 Mortec Guard, which are their skeletons.
And it's just because of volume of models, right? Just bodies.
That's the way the game works. If you have one giant dragon, or you have 400 little Skaven rats, the 400 Skaven rats will always win because they can swarm the objective, or they can.
And you just can't kill them fast enough.
Yeah, you can't kill that number of wounds as opposed to your 16 wound dragon, and that 16 wound dragon counts as one model on the objective.
Could you reduce the strategy of modern Age of Sigmar to point to wound analysis? So it's just like the more wounds I can get on a table with less points spent is the better list. Is that half of the equation?
It is definitely part of the equation. Okay. You always want to do total wound count on your army to know, like, all right, my army looks really super good. It looks really powerful, really killy, but it's only 65 wounds. That's and then I'm going against a Skaven player that's got 160. Like, I'm just not gonna. How much extra effort I have to put in to make up for the lack of what they need to kill versus what I need to kill. There's obviously a ton more like factors in it, but that is an ideal starting point.
I want to do an episode of the podcast just about this. I don't know if like the strategy of Age of Sigmar is a thing, because myself and probably other people out there probably look at Age of Sigmar and they think that's not a very tactically deep game. And me and John are lucky to have a person by the name of Joe Creer who lives in the Twin City areas, who's a very proficient player in Age of Sigmar and is placed in several global tournaments in it. And having him on to share his opinions on like whether or not the game is tactical it'd be interesting, because I think at face value the game seems pretty bare bones. But there's more to it, obviously. And
it's really interesting because I've played Joe. Actually, I played him in the championship round of a local tournament.
Cool.
And he whipped my butt. And that was
probably with some cheese, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, his army is super cheesy.
Super cheese. Yeah, but you know what? I learned a ton. So many little intricacies that he did that most of us don't do is the difference between going 3-2 at an event or going 4-1 or 5-0. Like, that's the last, that last 10% is the hardest hill to climb. And he's really good. I actually kind of got into a tiff with him on Facebook.
I know,
the other day about a strat.
I saw, the OCR 4 catapult strat or 2 catapult or whatever it is.
We had a disagreement over one of the command abilities of the cavalry guys.
Oh, that's what it was?
Yeah. Interpretation of rules.
Okay.
But I was right, so.
Yeah. I read the conversation. I was like, I have no idea what's going on here. But yeah, so that's what I painted, Mantic diorama gaming base.
Cool.
What'd you do?
So here's a problem.
That's not how you started.
Yeah.
What did you paint, John?
We have had an issue. So new army comes out. I spend way too much money.
Tell me how much you spent. Can you tell me?
More than $500.
Oh, God. This guy's over here complaining about the cost of cinema gear, spends, I don't know, probably $550, $600 on a fucking new army. And you have, like, how much of your undead army is unpainted?
My regular death army?
Yeah.
Just let's round up to all of it.
Shame.
Yeah, but I can still use some of my good stuff from that army in this one.
Okay,
I can use Nagash and I can use Archon. Well,
are either of them painted?
no.
Hey, square one.
This is at this point I have an excuse where I'm like, look, we have this video idea where I can't paint stuff now because we're gonna need to have it all painted then.
Oh, okay. Are we spoiling this a little bit?
That's all we're gonna say.
Okay, all right.
That's all we're gonna say. So I've been like building models and not painting, which is dumb. I have painted some more on my dragon for Resin Beast, and I have done more conversion work for my piece for Golden Demon, but I just haven't put a lot of paint on models.
Sure, that's fine.
I have a new trick though.
Okay.
All right, I was gonna share this nugget in a video one day, and people will probably forget anyway. So I'm gonna share it now.
One thing I learned about YouTube is you can repeat yourself so many times, and no one will care.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
So here's my tip. So I told you that I've been watching a lot of videos about kind of like TED Talk style videos about traditional art, about traditional artists, 2D artists, painters, whatever, drawers. And some of these things that they do to get better, to be efficient, to be able to make money and produce enough works. And one of the things that really stuck with me was this guy says, what I learned I needed to do was simply sit down and do it. And that sounds like duh. Okay. So he said, here's what I did. I made a promise to myself that every day I would sit down at the table with a sheet of paper and I would draw one straight line across the paper. If I did that, the day was a success. And what do you think happened after he sat down and he drew one line, Scott? He drew more. Mm-hmm. He's there. He's got his tools out. He's got his sketchbook out. He starts the creative process and then it just continues. So I haven't started this yet, but what I want to do is I want to sit down at my painting table. I get out my palette. I put paint on my brush. That is all I have to do.
Okay.
If I put paint on the bristles, what am I going to do next?
Rinse it off and go play video games.
Damn it. Doesn't quite work.
Yeah, presumably you would paint. Yeah, I like this. I like the idea of trying to paint the tiniest amount at a minimum every single day. I tried that one time. Like I went home for holidays during Christmas last year, or maybe it was the year prior, but I brought with me stuff to paint with, and I was painting at my in-laws house and at my own parents' house. I was painting Gast on my Guild Ball team, and the light I brought with was a headlamp, and I borrowed newspaper from them and put it on their ping pong table, and I was painting every single day. I didn't manage to paint every single day for a year straight. It was like I probably managed maybe like 5 months of just doing every single day, at least a tiny bit. But yeah, it definitely does work for sure.
Okay. So I guess my challenge then would be to our listeners is to go through this with me. I'm going to start this.
When?
Today.
Today?
Today.
Did you already do it today?
No, I didn't do it today. I had to get up and drive here.
Oh, okay. You don't get up at 5 a.m. like me?
Tonight I'm going to do it.
Because you're not a winner like me?
I was up at 6 like a human.
Okay. Join the club.
Hey, you were up late last night. You actually responded to me.
I was up late
Usually
last
I
night.
can't text you after 10 because I feel bad.
Well, it's not going to wake me up, but I just won't respond. Strict bedtime, 10 at 10. But yeah.
I'm not worried about waking you up. I'm worried about waking Amber up.
Oh, yeah. Well, my phone's on my side of the bed, and she's usually facing her side of the bed, so it's okay.
Is that annoying? Bzz, bzz,
No,
bzz,
I have it on
bzz.
silent, dude.
Okay. You're a champ.
I am a champ.
So do this with me and let me know if you have success with it. Every day, sit down. I mean, ideally at the table there is some mini to paint.
Right.
Should you feel obliged?
You're ready to get the mini out?
Yeah. Like, John, this is super easy. I just go over and go, boop, and then I walk away. But see what happens. I'm curious to see results because with a greater pool of us in this experiment, we can have more understandable data.
Yeah.
So it's not just me because I really, really want to make it work. So I'll push my agenda on it. But is this something that actually could be replicated if we, boost the signal?
Oh, nice little Sam lens reference there.
So in regards to my dragon, I am working on building up some depth in the colors, which just really sucks on such a big model.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
It takes a long time. And trying to figure out the wings. Okay. So I had a damn near mental breakdown doing wings in my last resin base piece. And this one doesn't have feathers, but there's such huge tracts of land.
Monty Python.
It's not as funny when you just say what it's
from. Yeah, but I need to let the people know that I understand what you're saying. Otherwise, I'm going to get pooped on.
Touche. And so I want to have some kind of patterns. I already have like this kind of dinosaur scale stripes and pattern on the body, and I wanted to figure out how to replicate that. But lo and behold, I couldn't really find a lot of dinosaurs with wings. There are some, but they basically just have them all one color from ones I could find. So I turned to birds.
Okay. Ooh.
Right. Because birds have some really interesting patterns on their wings. And I think that the bird I'm going to end up emulating is going to be one that we are familiar with in the Midwest of the United States, is the blue jay. Mm-hmm. Blue jay have some really interesting coloration patterns on their wings, and I really think it's just enough interest to make it look more, a secondary point of focus without being too over the top. And blue jays are in a similar color scheme to what my dragon is, so I could visualize it better. So that's kind of what I've been working on.
Cool. Yeah, with wings, I imagine a worry that you might have is because they're so large. Does this dragon have his wings like this, or is it kind of more like this?
They're kind of straight up, about to scoop down.
Okay, so if you're looking at the model in the front, can you see a large amount of the wing? Or do you have to kind of angle it to see it?
You do. Yeah, it's more of an angle. I mean, you can see some of the angles from a straight on perspective, but that's also not the money shot of the dragon anyway.
Okay.
It's about a 30 degree angle off of straight on.
Okay.
You can see the full side and the anger in his face, her face. She's a she in mine.
Okay.
And with that, you'll get to see the inside of one wing and the outside of the opposite wing at that money angle. So I have to have the inside of that wing look like, there I'm going for more of a bat wing, where a flesh wing, when the light hits it, they're very much see-through. So to see the veins and the actual blood underneath.
Okay, yeah.
So that's going to look quite contrasted to the blue jay wing.
Interesting.
So that's my goal.
Interesting. I was going to say, I imagine the worry with dragon wings is that they're so large that they might distract from what you're trying to draw attention to, which presumably is the head, but may not be. I have no idea. There's no rules here.
There's no rules.
Yeah. But about your skeleton boys, how many did you assemble? Like 10 basic dudes?
30.
30 basic dudes?
30 basic dudes. And
that's pretty good.
I got another 40 to do.
That seems pretty fast. Are they easy to put together?
They're way easier than traditional skeletons.
So it's not like one leg, torso, head, arm.
Yeah, traditional Age of Sigmar skeletons their legs are one piece, their torso is one piece, each separate arm is a piece, the head is a piece, the shield is a piece.
Yeah.
The good thing is the arm with the weapon is attached to the weapon. So that's the only thing. And then tiny little connection dots where you have to get the plastic cement in there. And you can't super glue them because they're so fiddly. If you super glue them, at some point you're going to pick them up and just snap them.
Oh, yeah, right off. Not enough surface area.
Yeah. So you have to hold his little freaking arm ball socket into the shoulder for like 40 seconds for every single thing. And that takes forever. So these guys, their whole legs and torso is two separate pieces that kind of do their cool little kind of snap. They're not at snap fit, because that's a very important point. They are not snap fit, but they fit together really nicely.
Okay.
And then you just have head, arm, and actually the shield arm is also attached to that body, so you only have to put the shield on. So it's like 3 less pieces, but it seems a lot quicker.
Okay. That seems like a lot. 30 is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to put together. It's that kind of stuff is kind of cathartic for me.
I 100% agree.
Especially when I am not cleaning these to my highest level.
No? Scraping it with an X-Acto, calling it good?
Yeah, they're really, really good sculpts in terms of the mold lines are almost non-existent. And they actually, GW did this right for once, where there's not hardly any mold lines that run across big, smooth surfaces.
Yeah.
And
shoulder pads in the Space Marines.
Yeah, heads of most of your minis.
Yeah.
They don't have those across the heads. They did the mold injection right on these heads where there's none.
Nice.
So you're just scraping off where it was connected to the sprue. That's all I've done. Yeah, I probably could go in there and probably spend another 2 minutes per model and scrape every little thing, but I'm just like, psh,
it's a whole hour.
No way.
All right. Oh, cool. That's what we painted. You guys can let us know what you painted in the Trapped Under Plastic Facebook group, which will be linked in the show notes or the description if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
But that gets us on to our next segment of the podcast, which is discussing our main topic for today, which is really just all about conversions. Our thoughts about them, some conversions we've done, and other things. As the chalkboard says, convert me like one of your French minis. And then I also put in a little je t'aime.
What does that mean?
Give him crap for not knowing what that means. It's French for I love you.
Oh, they're not going to give me crap for that.
No, they won't. The 2 French people will.
Oh, true. Today's topic was submitted by one of our patrons. It was a little while ago, before we were collecting patrons' names so we could give them credit. So we're sorry. Thank you, sir or ma'am, for your contribution. We've also had a good amount of YouTube comments in our comment sections talking about conversions. So I was like, let's pick this one. So
Yeah. One of the values of being a patron of the podcast is you get to submit minis for critique, but also you get to submit topics for discussion. We have a little spreadsheet that we always look at whenever we're picking a topic for a podcast. But yeah, so conversions. I have a long and drawn out thought about this.
Oh,
so I can start, or you can start, whatever you want.
Yeah. You get drawn out. Let me have it.
So I have a problem with miniature painting when it comes to YouTube and entertainment. Most videos, myself, my own included, I would probably not watch. And I have been trying to figure this out for the longest time. Like, why is miniature painting just not entertaining? I love so many creative things on YouTube. Metalworkers, carpentry, leather workers, cooking. Like, I love to watch the creation of things in general. And I was like, okay, maybe it's because with miniature painting, you're not creating anything. You're just modifying a pre-existing design. As some people might less endearingly put it, like a 3D coloring book. And I've said that in the past. And so it's like...
So, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
So you're saying is from second one on the video, and they show you the mini, you don't see it with the color on it, but you know what it's going to look like. I mean, if it's a barbarian dude with a sword, you're like, at the end, you're like, yeah, that's well painted, but that's still a barbarian dude with a sword. There is no aha moment or starting to see the unraveling of what it might be from this lump of, iron to becoming, Cloud Strife's sword, whatever.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem, is that there isn't a whole lot of mystery. Because when I can watch YouTube videos with the intentionality of learning, forfeiting the entertainment. Like sometimes I'll do that, or I'll just watch other YouTubers to see what's going on their channel, to see what they're doing, get inspiration from what they're doing. But it's never as easy as just sitting down and watching a video from I Like to Make Stuff, from Bob Claggett. There isn't any effort. I can just watch it, the whole thing, all 10 to 15 minutes, and it's always just great to watch. And I haven't found that for miniature painting until I found people who did terrain. Ooh. So there's paper cuts, there's Black Magic Craft, there's miscast terrain, or it's just miscast right now. There's Luke APS. There's all these people. Real Terrain Hobbies.
Luke Towen.
Luke Towen is the hugest one that just do terrain almost exclusively. Obviously, they mix in other things as well. But that is fun to watch. That takes zero effort to want to watch. Mm-hmm. This kind of drove home the idea that, okay, the reason why I don't like watching miniature painting is because you're just not making something. And so this is where we circle back to conversions. Conversions have an element of creation in them. My buddy Trent from Miscast Terrain, he knows I have this problem with videos, and I made a video about Thor, painting Thor, and the video did abysmal. I'm not sure why, but he told me that I had figured out the formula in that video, and I think the reason why is because probably half or 40% of it includes a conversion. It includes Scratch building his axe, which I can't remember the name of right now.
Mjolnir.
That's his hammer. His axe is called Stormbreaker.
Oh, okay.
And it includes doing a head swap and sculpting in a beard and hair, and then it includes painting. So it's like there's a mixture here of the creation and also the painting. And he said, I figured it out then. So I think I'm not good at conversions, but they hold a special place in my heart as potential for making miniature painting videos interesting for me to watch because there's some element of creation.
Do you think that it spoils it if in the thumbnail they actually show you the painted version of the final converted mini?
No, because I want to know how they got there. I mean,
sure.
every like carpentry video I watch has the thumbnail of the finished thing, and that doesn't spoil it. Because I mean, like, I'm not a good carpenter by any stretch of the imagination, so I don't know how they got to that point. And similar for conversions, I'm not good at it. So if I saw it, I'd be like, yes, I want to watch that.
Okay.
And also, okay, podcasts are weird because when you listen back to them, you say things and you're like, wow, I sound like a douchebag. Okay. I'm not trying to say that I am the end all be all miniature painter. And when I see a thumbnail of a really good painted model, I'm like, I know how to do that. Next, like, that's not what I'm saying. There are certainly people on YouTube that paint better than me, and that I could definitely learn from. It's just a weird thing that I have a hard time engaging with and watching without the intentionality that I'm going to learn and not just have a good time.
So if you struggle with wanting to watch someone's process of painting, how is that different from going to somebody's class, like going to a miniature painting class? Do you view those in the same light? I know you've gone to a fair number.
Yeah, that's a good question. No, I think the expectation is different for a class than it is for a video. For a video, I just want to be entertained and mildly educated for 10 minutes.
Okay.
For a class, the express purpose is learning. So it's like I come in with a different frame of mind.
Okay.
Interesting comparison, though. I never thought to compare the two.
Yeah. I view them similarly, just because in my mindset, that's what I want. Like, if you can teach me something through a video that I can take away, to me, that's the same value as going to a class and probably learning one or two takeaways in that 2 or 3 hour class.
Yep.
And so that's good. If you can keep me engaged and sometimes entertained and attached to the personality, then I'm going to watch all your videos, even if the topic wasn't of something that I really wanted to learn more about, or I think I got the hang of that aspect. But I view them similarly. And in fact, in a lot of ways, I appreciate a YouTube video that teaches me something more than an actual physical class, because I know I can go back to that video and see the up close and watch it 4 times. And have some kind of takeaway. Now, if people that taught painting classes would have some takeaway for me to come back home with, that would be a high value experience for me, because I feel like I had got more value out of that class because I can go back to my reference sheet and have that same experience as I did to watch the video a couple more times. So I get that. But this is an interesting side note. We started with conversions, but didn't really get too far into conversions.
No, but yeah, explain what about conversions appealed to me. The fact that you are taking something and you're creating something new. And to me, painting is not creating something new. It's just, I want to say, modifying or your interpretation of it. It's not, you're not changing the core thing.
It's an artistic expression of that form.
Yeah. At the same time, I would watch someone paint a 2D canvas. Like there's an artist on YouTube. I forget his name. It's like Jaxa or Jazza, who does all kinds of illustration and painting and other things. And I watch that because he starts with a blank sheet of paper and ends with something that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is such a mysterious process that it's, it can be entertaining.
I think, and there's a bunch of those amazing content creators on Twitch that do that are great artists. And then in their 2-hour Twitch stream, they knocked out at least one, sometimes 2 or 3 amazing works of art that start with the blank canvas or ZBrush work or whatever.
Yeah.
And by the end, you're just like, whoa, like you watch every stroke. And so it's so much more fulfilling to me than a 3 or 4 hour mini painting Twitch session.
Right.
That
yeah, there's that
doesn't
too.
look like a whole lot gets done, which is one of the reasons why I think Sam Lenz is so amazing on Twitch, is because he can work so fast to such a high standard that you can see in him not only keeping me entertained for 2 or 3 hours with his discussion, but how far he gets in a short period of time is, to me, very similar to those painters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's hard to do. There's not a lot of people in this world that can do that.
No, yeah. Maybe we just don't have a lot of very experienced miniature painters, because it is such a new thing, and its reach is not, it's just starting to really kind of unfold.
Yeah. It's that 10,000 hour mark kind of thing that,
yeah.
I mean, Sam's put in his 10,000 and there's others that have, that just aren't in the social media realm.
Yeah.
Like if Roman Lapat had stuff out there, videos that showed like how he does stuff, I mean, that would probably be amazing as well.
Yeah, that would definitely be amazing. But those are my opening thoughts about conversion. Let's hear some of your opening thoughts.
Okay. My opening thoughts. When I first think of conversions, I think of, there's 2 buckets, and there's probably more, but to me, there's 2 main buckets. Bucket A is, I play a game. I want my army to feel unique or to be more personable to me, something that makes it special. And so I convert some or all or whatever portion of the stuff from my army so it stands out. I mean, no matter what game we play, there's going to be other people that play the same army as us. And everybody wants to feel unique and to feel like their stuff is different than anything else. And so converting seems to be the main way to do that, other than custom color scheme. Those seems to be kind of like the 2 things.
Okay.
Right. So if I play Space Marines along with 90,000 other people in the world, how do I make my army of Ultramarines look different? Well, Ultramarines have to be painted that certain color blue. I mean, they don't for the game, but the Lorehounds will string you up by your toes.
You can do successor chapters like Silver Skulls. That's a successor chapter.
Sure. But then there's 70 other people that also play Silver Skulls. So.
Yeah.
So if I have some limitation to color, not necessarily, it's kind of self-imposed limitation. But what I don't have limitations to is how I can convert my miniatures to be unique to me. And so I think that's bucket number 1. To me, bucket number 2 goes into try-hard mode, typically associated with competition. But people will also do it when they're just trying their best, not necessarily to make a competition piece, but what I would maybe classify as a display piece to them. And so they want their piece to really look different than everybody else's Space Marine lieutenant, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to change out heads. I'm going to switch up his pose. I'm going to put a different gun on him. I'm going to have him, mid shot blowing up an orc or whatever. And here's where the conversions start to happen. And so there's some, I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious, connection to the quality of my overall piece to how much extra work I did underneath the layers of paint. So we think that, well, if I just painted a Space Marine out of the box, but painted it amazingly, is that work of art less likely to win or has less value than one that was painted to an equal standard, but I switched up stuff myself?
That's an interesting question. I mean, to the individual, anything that makes you spend more time doing it increases the perceived value in your head for it.
Yes.
The biggest example for me is the Witch. That model, they can probably say this at this point, was not painted extremely well. But I spent so much time converting it. I redid the hair like 3 times. And like the whole pose has changed and the dress was cut and reshaped and resculpted. And for me, that kind of really skewed how much I valued that model, which actually is in the source. I have a little glass half of a shelf. If you want to check that model out, one of my patrons saw it and they messaged it to me and they're like, I had no idea it was this small. But yeah, it's a tiny model. It's a true scale 32 mil. That made me feel good a little bit. Like, I didn't realize it was this small. You're awesome. I was like, oh, thank God. But yeah, so individually, the more time I spend, the more I see value. But yeah, like if you're a judge, I think you'd need to disclose the fact that conversions are a metric that we judge, or it's a extra credit thing that you can do to get more points or something like that. Because I mean, maybe subconsciously it's impossible to avoid that whole idea that I've never seen this before. It's cool.
Yes. That is proven to win. Whether or not they're and like Crystal Brush had that in their rules. You're allowed to convert, but it has no influence on the final scoring. Right? Yeah. And Golden Demon is the same way. They have the same verbiage. I say, sure. Okay, guys. Yeah. I believe you.
I'm gonna go out and say it. I think it's more valuable because it displays a wider range of skills.
Sure.
Like if they're painted equally, but one's converted, the one that's converted is artistically better. It wins the Olympic gold medal because it's just, you have a larger talent set and you're showing it and using it. You can flame me for that. I don't care. I think how do you argue with that? That seems right?
I think here's the flip side of that coin is if you're saying that, then you also need to take into account the sculpt itself. So the quality of the conversion, does it still feel anatomically correct?
Yeah, does it feel like it belongs with the original stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of models these days, specifically Games Workshop, but a lot of other kind of higher grade models these days have so much movement to them that feels like a real person's or monster's movement. It has weight, it has motion. It's not static models anymore. It's not the monopose He-Man, 2D version of a model. And so if you have to account for that, you're judging some aspect that isn't in the judging criteria, because you can't judge it from a static model that I bought off the shelf. But then do I give them negative points because they did a bad conversion, but the painting was still good?
Yeah.
Like, how do you...
That comes down to the metric.
That?
Right. That comes down to the metric. If you're going to be honest with yourself as a judge of a competition, you have to say, okay, conversions are a part of my metric, and here's one category. One category is, does it meld well with the original sculpt? And you can get docked points if it doesn't. Like, can I see fingerprints or whatever else other categories there may be? I think, you just need to have an upfront rubric to judge with. And yes, it can dock you points.
Right. I mean, that's the tough part when they put in the rules that you're allowed to convert, but it doesn't give you any extra points. There's no judging criteria for it, basically.
Yeah,
so if
like
there's
no man's land.
Yeah, so if we can't give you plus points for it, that means that technically we can't give you minus points either.
Yeah.
But, if it's obviously not a really good conversion job, they're going to find something else that was affected by the bad conversion that made it less overall. They'll find somewhere else to give you those negatives is what I'm saying. So
yeah,
I think that's what so those are my two areas that I feel like from a base level, we're talking about why conversions happen.
Okay.
I think there's an interesting history to conversions as well, because back in the day when you had so few options for unit choices or models in general, you couldn't get exactly what you wanted because there were so few options. And then if I did get a box of goblins, there was 40 of them and they only had one pose. So how do I make stuff look more unique? How do I kind of put my spin on it? So there's one history to it. And I think basically because that became a part of this hobby, converting became entrenched in the hobby. And then the transition over to plastics from white metal.
Right. And then now we have all these insanely dynamic poses. And that's an interesting thought. It's like, was converting easier a while back when you had all these kind of vanilla pieces that kind of fit together, and basically you got to choose what you wanted to look like? It wasn't imposed on you, where like the leg was at some crazy angle, or like the arm was like holding a specific thing, or whatever it may be. Would you go out and say that? Would you say that converting was easier like 10 years ago?
I think it was easier to see a good conversion job because everything was so static. And if I have my one goblin with actually a huge spear and his arms are now up in the air and he's running, or he's standing on top of a squig when there wasn't one for that model, it stands apart. Like my eye originally feels like, oh, that's totally different, because I'm so used to seeing sameness. But now there's so much variation of stuff in models, even within their own units in the range, that like conversions, oftentimes, if they're not some major over the top thing, I can't, when paint's on it, I can hardly tell.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying that maybe conversions had more value because they were so significantly different looking.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of our opening thoughts about conversions. Now I want to talk about two more things. One, conversions we've done, and also people that do conversions that are awesome. Let's start with the latter of the two. I have two people that I may have mentioned in a video in the past that do conversions that are just awesome. The first one is Maxime Pasturel, French man.
Mm-hmm. He's going to be mad at me.
Yeah, right. Maxime is a GW employee. He's a sculptor for them. And you mentioned earlier about how conversions are hard to do and I agree with this as well, because so much of the kits are so model specific. And this guy does not care. He crushes it, and he makes these super awesome conversions with things that you would just think aren't related. He has a blog that I'm not going to try to pronounce, that I'll link in the show notes, so you can look through some of his conversions. The one that's my favorite is he took the Cauldron of Blood Cain.
Yeah, the big Cain.
The bloodied-handed god.
Avatar of Cain.
He took that and he gave it a hood. He gave it a giant... Does it have a sword?
I think it has a sword in one hand.
It has a sword and a heart in the other hand, right?
Yeah.
He gave it a cloak, and the cloak was it ended in Nagash's cloak, so like those ghosts that were flying out.
Oh, baby! It
looked so freaking cool. And he has other just like war bands and squads that he's done that are just so awesome. So Maxime, I think part of the reason why he may be so good at it is because he has like this cataloged knowledge of all of GW's bits, because he's so close to it all the time. Gosh. I'm just guessing. He's also probably just talented, you know.
Do you think they have got like a bits room? They have like all these little bins, like it's like all the different colored Legos, the different shapes and sizes and colors, except it's all bits?
I don't think so, because like you can't sell conversion. Oh. You know what I'm saying?
True.
I think he just probably maybe gets some for free because he's like in the studio and like brings them home. which would really alleviate the biggest issue I have with converting, which is like sacrificing kits of models to conversions.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to have a squad of 19 guys because I decided to steal the torso from the 20th guy for a conversion, you know? Maybe that's it. But I love him. The other guy is Colonel on Instagram, who often does very grim, dark stuff. And actually, I got him to send me a model that he did, and I'm going to paint it in a future video, and I'm super excited about it. But he also has just a really good way of just converting stuff to make it look like it belongs together, but also to make it look like it belongs in the same sci-fi universe as 40K, but maybe just like a darker, evil version of it. So yeah, those are my two favorite. I'll link both below. But how about you? You have any favorites?
So I have one, and I don't know. I follow him on Instagram. I actually went through and like looked at my Instagram thinking about this topic on like, do I have good examples? And I really don't follow a lot of people that are kind of known as converters, except for one. And his name is Orky Dork.
What a name!
Yeah. And that alone was probably why I hit follow on him. But he is a prime example. And this is, I think, an important part we haven't touched on yet. He is a prime example whose artistic outlet in the hobby is strictly converting. He has very few pictures on his Instagram of stuff where you don't see Bear Green stuff. And that's a big thing because you get to see the original parts. You get to see all the extra things he sculpted himself. You can see all the other kits that have found their way on there.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself, of an unpainted kit bashed model, in a lot of ways is its own work of art because you're seeing the raw version and how you've adapted it.
Yeah.
He does, as his name implies, much orc work.
Much orc work.
Right. Job's done. And he loves all the scrap, the scavenge, the post-apocalyptic, grab everything that's half rusted and throw it on a buggy kind of style.
Yeah.
His orc style really feels like 40K orcs. I mean, he really goes with their story, and everything that he does really fits the lore and the understanding of who these orcs are.
Yeah.
I think it's, there are folks that, that's why we want to kind of throw a bubble around this and call, hobby enthusiasts, not mini painting enthusiasts, because this is very much hobby.
Yeah.
And it is art, and it's not mini painting.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of these incredible converters aren't necessarily incredible painters.
Yeah.
But sometimes their good paint job looks awesome because it's so new, it's unique. It goes back to our talk about competitions. It's that wow factor. It's that new factor. It's that, I don't know, what is that? I've never seen that.
Yeah.
For the same reason that these famous sculptors unveil their wonderful new sculpts pro-painted by somebody else at a competition. So it's the wow new factor.
Yeah. What you just said made me think of another person that I need to show you later, and maybe you might already know. Goes by the name of Modern Synthesist. Have you heard of this?
No. Is he a DJ?
No.
That would be...
Maybe in his spare time. He does Tyranids and Dark Eldar, and I want to show you his. He does tons of Coven Dark Eldar conversions, and the Coven are like the flesh golem, the flesh crafting side of Dark Eldar.
Grotesques.
Right, grotesques, and you have the doctor dudes, homunculi, and you have what are some other ones?
You don't have to name them all, dude. We get it. Dark Eldar.
Do I? Ghasts, is that one? No. But yeah. Racks. Yes, those are the basic ones. So he has so many lovely conversions, and you can just see the bare plastic and all the different kits that were used, and it's so satisfying to see how smoothly the green stuff flows into the plastic. And like everything looks so intentional and awesome. And he has lots of awesome guides about sculpting and how to like get great effects. But where do you draw the line between sculpting and converting? It's like they are very much so intertwined. But at what point does it just become an original work of art. I guess if you ever using, like, okay, here's an example. Someone does a fully sculpted model, but like for the rings on, I don't know, some accessory, they use metal rings. That's still a scratch build, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, but where does it become a conversion?
I think it's using existing model kit pieces.
Okay.
Put into your piece in a way that works instead of sculpting them yourself.
Okay, so and then I have another question for you. Follow up. Are you familiar with garage kits? Do you know this term?
Garage. Is it like a model thing where you like scale modelers?
It's a scale model thing. Yeah, it's like a mech thing. I hadn't known about this for a while, but there are people that will convert scratch built, grab random stuff from their house like old Apple mice and put it together and then cast and sell it as a garage kit. Now, the main critique of garage kits is that they are often complicated and maybe the directions aren't the greatest because it's made by just a dude, an individual, not a company. And he's taking other parts from other kits and other things in his house like electronics and whatever else and making a full thing. And this is kind of an interesting thing in regards to conversion because, like, no one sells their conversions, right? But in this world, they do. I'm not sure where I'm going with this.
I'm confused. Okay, so I got the idea that the dude has all these other things, puts together a new thing, and then he sells that individual thing. You're saying he makes a new kit out of all the crap he used to build this thing, and then sells that.
Sells it, yeah. Resin copies of it. He casts it and sells it.
That's weird. So then they get to go through the process of using the Apple IIgs mice and the whatever, old floppy disks.
Yeah, like actually Todd Thyberg, the letterpress printer that I know, he has I think something he made scratch build where he used like a mouse or something like that in it. And I found someone on YouTube once upon a time who was like making his own spaceship, and he was just scratch building it with a bunch of like random stuff. And in the end, after it's painted, it looks freaking awesome. But I don't know how this or what I wanted to say, but I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, I saw that. Oh gosh, what's that? The one day builds videos.
Yep.
Adam Savage.
Yeah.
He often in his one day builds, he's got big tubs of model kits.
Yeah.
And he grabs stuff off of those and he's like, this is how movie props are made all the time.
Yeah, I just have a bunch of these little greebles or greebles or whatever they're called. And
what a great word.
I know. That's great.
I want to use greebles more in my everyday life. Like just a thing that you don't exactly know what you're describing. Just call it a greeble.
Yeah.
And people will look at you funny. Yeah, I think the conversion side really on the sliding scale of sculpting my own thing and then something out of a box. Somewhere in the middle there is I guess the meat and potatoes of the
damn you.
Found a way to pull it in of conversions, and that is it's majority other parts of existing kits, and then it's green stuffing to make their joints fit,
to bandage it together.
Yeah, to kind of make it all wrapped in a bow, so where it looks like this was a real kit.
So the Troll Slayer sword winner of 2019, where the base was made and his like whole lower half, like belly, was like sculpted up into the actual kit, Trogoth, whatever it's called. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the one where he had the cool sculpted base.
Is that a conversion?
No, that's just sculpting the base.
Well, the model itself had modifications into it as well.
I wouldn't have even known that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it looks like the box to me.
I'm not sure if there's any value in discussing this, but it is an interesting thing to think about. Like, where do you draw the line between scratch build and unique art versus this is just a conversion? Because it seems like kind of like conversion could be a cute word for someone who like really put a lot of effort into making something really unique.
Sure.
Maybe people who are actually good at it might be offended if like someone called it a conversion versus something else. I don't know. I wouldn't be because I'm garbage at it, so it doesn't matter.
It's all semantics, really, isn't it? Like, if in that case, if he did add some kind of putty to add some more depth dimension change of the thing, I mean, I don't know what I'd call it if not a conversion, but he's not actually using. It wasn't like he brought in like a little Nurgle head and like stuck it up his butt, so the Nurgle head was coming out. Like that would be a conversion.
Okay,
and I would have given him 10 out of 10 for that.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about conversions we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you kick us off?
Well, since you did talk about Dark Eldar.
Yes.
This was probably 2 years ago. Not long after this is right when I was going to go to the first Crystal Brush. I had bought 2 kits.
I remember this.
To make my own grotesque. I actually made a unit of 3 of them from the Dark Eldar. What's the big floaty thing?
A Raider?
No, it's got the big head.
Oh, a Kronos Parasite engine or a Talos Paint engine?
Yes. I bought one of those kits, and then I bought a kit of Crypt Flayers from Games Workshop Flesh Eater Quartz, and made my own. And there'll be a picture right now. There will.
Thanks for cueing my edit.
Right, no problem. And we could put some links or whatever. I could probably throw that up on Instagram too. But I really like how one of them turned out. He looks really cool. Like ripped off his from his forearms on, and then jammed those big nasty needle hook things and scythes on his arms. Put a big honking mask on him. That was fun. I've done some lesser ones with like the Necromancer I did. It's a slight one, just a head swap kind of a thing.
Yeah, putting a skull on the High Elf Sorcerer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then actually technically my second place piece for Crystal Brush was a full conversion. You wouldn't notice by looking at it because it just looks like a Plague Marine that you'd get out of the box. That's actually 4 different kits of Plague Marines.
Okay.
To get the pose that I wanted, the weapon that I wanted, the head that I wanted, the big flat chest piece so I could show off some stuff on that.
Okay.
And then to make the arms and the angle work right, I had to do a good amount of putty work there.
And you still messed it up.
And I still messed it up. Yeah, I screwed that up. It just covers up his face too much. So
yeah.
So if it would have been a GW kit, it would have looked better because they wouldn't have screwed that part up.
Well, you mentioned something that was interesting. You picked a certain chest piece to show off a certain skill, right?
Yeah.
So this is a cool idea about converting, is that if the model you have is cool and the subject matter is cool, but it doesn't allow you to show off a certain technique, which you have to consider when you're painting for a competition, converting allows you to, pick a bit and do that. Were all of your conversions done because you wanted to demonstrate a certain technique, or were they also just done for the cool factor? Or
no, I think if I'm using them for a cool idea or in my army in a game or whatever, I'm just doing something that I think will look cool and will represent the unit I want. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes it's because I don't like the traditional version of that model. Like, I'm just not a fan of the, crinkly old man necromancer model.
Okay.
I just think he looks like he looks like frickin' Gargamel from Smurfs. So
you do make a lot of references. I'm counting. I think you're on 3 or 4.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. It's fine. But yes, I haven't made a single one.
Oh, well, you better start taking notes, and then you can awkwardly put them in.
I got to keep up. I should have a little reference counter in the bottom. Bing.
So yeah, I'll do that for the game stuff. If I don't really like what my options are and I want to be excited to paint it, there's that. From the competition side, I think you and I are the same, but you go way further than me. It's like I need to show some amazing idea, story told, and I need to convert and sculpt it so my story will be told, because my story is more important than what the model looks like in the box.
Right.
I'm not so heavy on the Plague Marine example is not so much heavy on the story side, but it's like I want a certain feel and look. I want a certain kind of, moment to be captured there. And I can't just work the other way. I can't work with the model and then feel the story out from the model. I've got to feel out my story that excites me and then work towards how do I show that.
Yes. So you referenced the witch, and I think you explained it pretty good. That was the first time I started with a story and then tried to find a model to fit into it, as opposed to starting with a model and then finding a story that works for the model. And it worked in some senses and it didn't work in other senses. I think the base that I made with which was a scratch build with the church and the cross and the fire, thought that was really cool. Had a lot of fun doing that. And it's so easy to do. It's just a bunch of rectangles. That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
And some scraping and some paper clip. It's so simple how like houses and structures are just a bunch of really simple shapes that you can get in styrene and brass and aluminum and wood and whatever else you can find. But it's so easy. It just takes a little bit of time. But then the model itself was every single joint was cut and repositioned. So the wrists, okay, I cut off this lady had daggers. And so I was like, how do I work with these clenched fists? I can't sculpt a new hand. So I was like, okay, if you're burning a lot, you're probably clenching your fists, right?
Yeah.
So I took a little drill and I scooped out the area in between her fingers and her thumb and under here to make it look like she wasn't just, I cut the thing off. So it was just flat. So I scooped that out. I cut her hand off. And I was so terrified of losing a 32 millimeter true scale fist. It is the tiniest thing in the world. I had a little container for it, and I closed the container and I taped it to my desk. I was like, I'm not losing that. And then I cut her at the elbows. I cut her at the shoulders. And then I just positioned the head differently when I glued it on. But the arms were like kind of like this really just whack like pose. And so I had to like sculpt like, kind of like the armpit, like the skin area that gets stretched when your arms are stretched out. And then the hair. Goddamn the hair.
Oh. Ugh.
Someone said in the comment section, I had mentioned this in the video, it's like, you should make her hair floating because hair floats because, fire combusts and then air raises. And I was like, I hate you.
Yeah, because it has a backdraft, Kurt Russell.
Backdraft Kurt Russell. I didn't get that one.
Yeah. Backdraft is a movie.
Okay.
Featuring Kurt Russell.
5 references.
Yes.
But yeah, I couldn't figure out how to do that for the longest time, and I figured out the best way that I could, but it involved sculpting hair, which is maybe not the easiest thing to do with the miniature, because every miniature's hair is like way too thick, right? Because to scale down hair in miniature form is literally impossible. So you have to kind of take some concessions. But yeah, a large portion of that miniature was lots of slicing and repositioning and sculpting to hide those cuts. That's probably the biggest one, the biggest conversion I've ever done. And that was because of the approach that I took to the project. And after having done it, I'm going to say that I'm probably not going to do it again until I'm significantly better at it.
Do you remember when it was like 2 weeks till Adepticon and you lost the piece and you texted me and you're like, I can't remember what piece it was. You're like, I lost it. It's on my floor. I can't find it. And you were freaking out. I think it was a hand or it was something. I think it was the reason why you taped the hand in the box because you had lost something.
Maybe.
And you were in crunch time. You didn't have paint on the model yet. And we were like 2 weeks to go. And oh man, you were so nervous. And then like 45 minutes later, you found it.
Okay, that's good.
You found it.
I kind of remember that, but not a whole lot. But that's kind of funny.
It was all a blur.
Yeah. And then the other one I referenced, I've done a few small conversions. I did a for my best man. I got him a wedding gift of a Death Company dreadnought, and he's in the process of killing 3 cultists. He's stomped on one, and like his legs are doing the whole like raised up because he just got stomped on. He has like the claws, and it was only 2 cultists. He ripped one in half, so that one he has in this hand, and like his claws pierced through his chest, and like his entrails are hanging down, and like the other half of that man's body is in his other claw. Like he just like ripped it apart. So I've done small things like that. my Talos paint engine is. I bought a box of 5 cultists for conversions. So this is why there's so many cultists.
All the cultists are accounted for.
Yeah. I have a Talos paint engine that I was like, these guys probably collect like corpses and husks of humans to bring back to their masters so they can do flesh crafting and crap. So I was like, okay, I want my Talos paint engine to be carrying a dead body back. So I have a hook coming down and like a meat hook's in this man's chest and it's dragging him along the ground, and there's like a trail of blood being left behind him.
Those are all the good juices. You can't lose those before you bring them back.
yeah. I mean, it can't be dead, otherwise it's useless, right? And then the Thor one, I replaced Mjolnir. I drilled a hole in his fist, put paperclip in there, and then sculpted a branch structure around the paperclip. But the thing that I was probably the happiest with was the head of the weapon. And this is a lot easier to do than people probably think. So if you get milliput and you roll it out into a sheet and you let it dry, and then you could even go so far as to bake it a little bit to make it even more brittle. You get some pencil and you can draw out the outline of whatever it is you're making. In this case, it was a mace hammer. It had both elements. But
is there a hyphen in that phrase?
I don't know.
Mace hammer.
It's weird. It's a weird weapon. But you can draw it out, and then you can take a rotary tool, and you can start to carve out the perimeter of the object. And then once the perimeter is there, you can refine it with files and maybe some scraping with X-Acto knives. But it is super easy, I think, to make a weapon head because the shape is so angular and so straight and so like defined. You can just plot it out, carve it out, and then boom, you have a fancy axe for whatever it is you're trying to do. It's really easy.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason why prehistoric man like made basic tool first, because it's easy.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because you just carve it out. And
he didn't like, let's make AK-47. Good luck with milliputting that.
All right, next project.
I think to like rewind about 8 minutes ago when you were talking about your witch piece, I think you and I have talked about this before, and if not, we did in my head. About the middle ground between first we need to find a story, something that like that's going to excite us to do the piece, right? We really think, oh, I can just envision this. And then before we get too far, we have to find the right subject matter, even if it requires conversion, and it probably requires some,
yeah.
That at least will aid in the story and not be burdensome to accomplish this task. Because I feel like there's a middle ground there, and the witch model, I mean, you looked at everything. I was looking at trying to find something that would work for that witch, that crucified burning witch.
Oh yeah, that had the crazy face. And
yeah, there was a lot of boxes that needed to be checked for that to be pulled off, and you didn't have a model that helped you succeed.
Right. That's what the judges said too.
Yeah.
Like when you need to pick a model that can demonstrate your ability as a painter, and that one was not it. The face was, I think this was Jose Palomares said the face was too small, and I didn't put enough effort into it.
Rip.
Yeah. He's like, that's the most important thing. You need to put way more effort into it. And I was like, all right, that's fair. But yeah, he said the model wasn't doing you any favors.
Yep. So I think there's something there that, okay, you can have a great idea, and you got to find the right muse.
Sure. Yeah.
That will help it succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the better you are at converting, the less that muse needs to be right on track.
Yeah. Very true.
Well, I think we hit this conversion talk well.
You just piece that word together like a bad conversion.
Yeah, it's an ex-con version.
Are we doing some news now?
Yes, let's do news.
All right. We don't have a news jingle still.
Still don't have a news jingle.
We're going to pull our phones out here because we have a little document with the news articles on them. We're not checking the latest, hottest thing from Rodrigo Acore. I promise.
Oh, man.
That guy is a freaking painter and a half, ain't he?
That burnt umber undercoat and just building up those layers.
All right, what's on the docket for today?
Okay, first and foremost, the most important news piece is free tendies.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Everchosen announced the winner of the competition like 2 days after we posted that podcast.
Yeah.
And I was wrong, and John was right. And if you remember, there was tendies on the line. So
immediately following the taping of this episode, tendies will be consumed.
Paid for.
And never any tendies will have tasted as good as those.
The one via being right.
I will. If I dropped it in a puddle, I'd still eat it because it would be.
I'm gonna swap it out of your hand.
Just slap victory.
You said you're gonna eat it. So yeah, I can't remember that guy's name, but
so the guy that did the Archregent,
Leduc,
Le Duc,
or was that
French for the Duke?
I don't know what his name was, but yes.
And then your choice, Trevelyan, came in third. Which honestly, the only reason I didn't pick Trevelyan because I knew you were going to, because I think we both thought his was the best.
Did they have the miles in person? Did they have?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He sent me pictures. Trevelyan sent me pictures.
Oh, he was there.
Yeah. Yes. It was the whole thing. So they flew them all out.
Cool.
To this open day, I think it was called. It was not like a Golden Demon thing.
Okay.
But they had other stuff going on. Darren was there too. Good friend.
Our good friend Darren.
Good friend Darren. Bilbo.
There it is. Let me just say this real quick. Martin Freeman.
And so I was talking to Christoph Trevelyan, like right after it was announced, and it was messaging him, and he was sending me pictures, and like he's like, want to send me the up close, like right before they were announced and stuff. He's like, oh, what is about this? What about this? What do you think? And I was like, yours is better, yours is better, yours is better. Which I really honestly did think that. I really told him, like, I really think you got this. I mean, they're all really well done. And he really saw, he's like, in person, they are really, really good. He's like, it's going to be a roll of the dice, you know, and what are they looking for?
Yeah.
What little things. But, you know, they flew him out there. They paid for a hotel. They got to go to
the bougie treatment.
Right? Like he was living the vida loca.
Yeah,
so
that's nice.
So good for him. Congratulations. And I told him there's like 18,000 store winners.
Such an accomplishment. Yeah. So like, obviously probably we could say the largest painting competition ever in terms of entrance.
Yes.
Yeah. Such an accomplishment. Even to get into like the final 100 is insane, let alone the final 3.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
When they showed the wall of finalists to cut it down to 3, it was like, there's 40 here that are amazing.
Yeah.
Like, to get top 3. So, and he really, when I talked to him after, like, that was his sentiment was like, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I'm totally happy with that.
Awesome.
Which, Trevelyan has a wonderful dry sense of humor and snarkiness. So I was kind of expecting like him to be like this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, which I would be. So,
especially if people were telling you that you were going to win.
Right.
And then you didn't. It's like, oh, cause like, that's kind of the worst when people tell you that you're going to win and then you don't. Because, like, in your mind, you're like, I'm not going to win. I'm not going to win. I'm not going to win. And then someone comes along and is like, you got this in the bag. And it's like, oh. And it's like, it kind of gives you this, you know, this little whispers in your ear. You know, it's dangerous.
I specifically remember a moment in my first Adepticon. So when first one I went there with you. And we were up late and we were, you know, partaking in adult beverages for a number of hours, and we're laying on the hotel bed like on our bellies, like with our phones out, and no, you had your laptop out, and we were looking through all the pictures of the finalists, and you're like, dude, I think you got this. You're at least gonna be in top 3. And that moment, because I didn't think, I was like, oh crap, I made the finalists, and you're like, yeah, okay, I was drunk, you were drunk, you know.
Where's the story going?
Like,
I'm scared.
I remember that moment because you said, I think you got this. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he got this.
Yeah. Cool. Other news, GW releases. We didn't talk about Drazar, the new Dark Eldar releases, and the new Phoenix Lord.
We actually in the after party, remember we talked about
Nicholas Gareth's.
his paint job of that guy.
Yes. After Party being just an extended version of the podcast that you get access to by being a patron. It's like a 30 more minutes of
Debauchery,
nerdy miniature talk. But yeah, so new Drazar model, but and I mean that model hasn't had a new mini in a long time. Its old pewter one was total garbage, and that new one is pretty awesome. But the most recent new release, the new Chaos Undivided. Slaves to darkness, slaves of darkness, slaves from darkness. One of the prepositions.
There's slaves and then there's darkness.
Yeah, whatever's in between doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's relatively recent new announcement.
Yeah. What do you think about these guys?
I dig them. Like back when I was gonna start Age of Sigmar, they were one of the armies I was looking at. Mm-hmm. Their models were so old though. I still thought, other than Varangard, which are freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, they're old, but the Chaos Warriors, they still look pretty good, don't they? Or no? Are they too chunky? Are they too...
They're very like Lego Man pose.
Yeah.
And they have new ones. And it took me a minute to figure out that they weren't the old ones. They have more movement to them, but they still are like weird proportions of like hands twice the size of their heads. And like armor, meaning that like their calf is like 18 inches. Like,
so you're thinking their proportions are off.
They're better now, and they have more movement in their poses. So I like them more than at first glance I did. They have new riders. Those guys look pretty dang sweet.
Yeah.
And then there's the new guy on a lizard.
I don't really like weird animal, like Alariel riding a beetle. Not a fan of that. Ideneth Deepkin on eels. Not a fan of that. This lizard thing, I'm down. I'm down with it. I kind of like it.
He is pretty cool.
Do you not? I'm getting the impression that you're not the biggest fan of it.
I don't dislike it.
Okay.
I like it more than most stuff in most armies.
Okay, yeah.
I don't like. It's not a vampire on the back of like a death dragon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let's get real.
Right.
Nothing can compare to that.
But it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
I like these guys.
Yeah, I like them too.
So it's, they're going to have this whole, probably this lead up to the story of Archaon and what's happened. This is probably the next chapter in the story of Age to Sigmar and I just said Age to Sigmar. Slaves to Darkness got me all messed up.
That's like AOS version 2, Age 2 Sigmar.
It's just the number 2.
Yeah. There's a significance to the release of these models, I think. Up until this point, every single mini in Age of Sigmar was like a new race, a new thing. Like Fire Slayers, those crazy steampunk dwarves, the Dark Elf, like Canaanite sisters. It was like, I want to take one of the old things and make something new with it, or expound on this specific detail, like Fire Slayers being slayers from the dwarf army, and then like make it like more fully enriched. Ideneth Deepkin, totally new thing, but these guys, this is just a remade and polished version of something that previously exists.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos Riders, Chaos Warriors, and a Chaos Lord and a mounted whatever. Like that, those things were all already in the rules for even fantasy, and they just got a facelift, and that hasn't happened yet, right?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I'm trying to think too. Well, like no, Skaven didn't get new stuff. When the Gits turned into the Gloomspite Gits from the goblins, they got new stuff, but it wasn't, I don't think, replacing old kits. I think all the new stuff like the Squig Riders and the new heroes and all that. Colossal Squig, that maybe would have been an old model. I think remember.
Maybe it was a Forge World kit.
Oh yeah, there is
I don't think it was I think that is one. But again, that's just taking Orcs and Goblins were a race, taking the Night Goblin portion of the Goblin portion, and then just kind of further developing it. But maybe there were some that got. I mean, the Squig Riders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those were a kit before, and they got replaced.
I don't honestly. I cannot remember if Squig Riders were a thing.
Okay,
before.
but suffice to say, a lot of it was new content. Whereas with this stuff, this is all just old content being rehashed, other than maybe like the lizard dude, which is fine. And I feel like that's significant because, I mean, I'm fully on board with my Wood Elves never getting a facelift. That's never going to happen. But seeing just an army get like pampered like that, you know, is cool. Like, not everything needs to be new and shiny. Some things can just get like look cooler.
I think they probably were backed into a corner a little bit from a story standpoint, and the requirement of Archaon being a part of the overarching Age of Sigmar story.
Okay.
Because he was, if you remember, I think it was the Ever-Chosen book that was one of the first books in Age of Sigmar 1.0.
End of Times?
So
are we talking about End of Times? Or are you talking about Age of Sigmar?
Age of Sigmar.
Okay.
So it's already existed, and he's oversees all the other chaos gods and stuff. So they couldn't just scrap it.
Right. Maybe there's that.
They have some design space to work with, but it's a fairly controllable IP.
Yeah.
And they got cool concepts for their stuff. They just needed some new coats of paint, and it looks great.
Yeah. Tying it back to the conversion topic, I'm trying to find a new army to play for Age of Sigmar, which I'm not going to it's not going to happen anytime soon. But you mentioned playing Legions of Blood, which is basically the Blood Knights. But the chaos, the fighty vampire.
Yeah.
And using these new Chaos Knights as conversions for the guys, I can't remember the name right now. The Blood Knights.
Blood Knights.
Okay, yeah. Because those models you can't even get them anymore, right?
I don't think so. They were fine cast and $100 a box for 5 of them.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Insane. So yeah, you can't get them anymore, and even if you could, you wouldn't buy them.
No, I mean they are a notorious conversion unit. Like everybody converts them. They use like the Dragon Knights from the High Elves, which now were gotten rid of in the Great Purging of 2019.
R.I.P.
So you couldn't use those anymore. I used the old to make my Blood Knights. I used the old Chaos Knights.
Okay.
And they're cool. They required a good amount of like getting rid of all the chaos iconography, head swap. They're very chunky still. So trying to like take the helmet off and have like a vampire looking head, they just look like derpy as heck.
That's fun.
So yeah, there's another conversion I did not too well. I think these new guys would be BA as Blood Knights.
Yeah, but the head thing I think is still a problem. Maybe
it might be.
Yeah. More news. Ogre Tyrant came out in a Feast of Bones, which is like a starter set that has the new OCR Bone Reapers in it, and also what are they called? Something Frostmaw or Ogres or whatever their new Age of Sigmar term is.
Maw Tribe.
That's what it is, right? And you get one new Tyrant, and this Tyrant is the coolest looking model in the world. I want to paint it so freaking badly. And here's another example of Ogre is coming out the other end of the Age of Sigmar funnel largely unscathed. Still very much in the same design aesthetic as the ogres from before. You have this Mongol feel. They're big and chunky. They even paint them in the same style. They have the one hand dipped in blood. It's interesting to see this happening kind of in another way where it's like, okay, we're not going to Age of Sigmarify this too much.
It feels like the last 18 to 24 months or so, GW has had a really top priority to update as many battle tomes as possible.
Okay.
To really bring everybody up to an even playing field as best they can.
So yeah, it's impossible.
Which is impossible, but they have a fairly valiant effort for what they've done so far. And so there's all the variety is relevant. Okay, you can say that, well, Wood Elves are gone. They just pushed everyone in these cities to Sigmar, whatever. But the version of that came out the other side is now usable in a competitive level, and its rules are all falling within the Age of Sigmar 2 rules, so it just feels like a tighter overall game.
Still burns.
Still burns. Still burns. Single tear.
Single tear for the what else?
Couple other models that they showed off recently are these new Warcry like beasts.
Yeah, like this cat thing and this
weird cat thing is weird, man.
Yeah, this don't really interest me very much.
Oh, the Cyclops. I every time I say the word Cyclops, I go back to when I was like 14 years old, and me and my buddies would all play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the Dreamcast.
It's a fighting game.
Someone else.
It's a fighting game.
It's an amazing fighting game. And so we're 14 years old, eating Cheetos, watching, playing the game, drinking Mountain Dews, and at one point I accidentally, and I was trying to say Cyclops, I said Cocklips. And now every time I say Cyclops, I'm worried I'm accidentally going to say Cocklips. And my friends have never let me live it down.
Yeah, that is going to live with you in infamy.
No, I just told the whole internet.
Captain Cocklips. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, so to tie this into the topic of the day, I applaud anyone that can do a conversion of that Cyclops model to have
Cocklips. There's plenty of
spitting
cocks
all over the microphone
in KDM models. So if you need some
yes,
some material,
you have an abundance.
Yeah, exactly.
But that Ogroid, I just love him. He's so mean with the spear and the head cocked to the side, like, who the hell is coming into my house?
Who said my name? What'd you say? Yeah, I don't really like monsters and things like that a whole lot, so I don't really care.
I don't
for
like
this.
monsters.
I mean, okay. Sorry for giving my opinion.
Just like you're just casting wide swaths.
I don't like monsters. When I think of villains, I like them to be largely humanoid.
So like just a big person then?
A big person, sure.
Like largely humanoid, so like they can be mostly human, but then they can like also have like one tentacle hand.
Yeah,
so
they're
largely,
or like long dagger-like fingernails, or like claws, or razor-sharp talons. That was a reference.
Razor sharp talons. Yeah, the chickens.
The chickens have larger. Yes, yeah. Dude. Okay, of all the people that like, I get comments about looking like the most, because whenever you put your face in the internet, people are like, "Oh, you look like what? What's your biggest one?"
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
My biggest two are Logic the rapper, and
you look exactly like him.
No, I don't. And Napoleon Dynamite.
Really?
Yeah.
Oof.
I get so many comments where it's like, my wife came over and she said, "I didn't know Napoleon Dynamite painted miniatures." Wow. And it's like, oh, yikes. That hurts.
Yeah, I get Matt Damon and I get and I get Tom Hanks.
I could see Tom Hanks a little bit.
I don't see it at all, but I'll take your word for it. Oh, that one person. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
So I had another one that was hilarious that I didn't see, but there is a female comedian that has like the same
just a haircut
same
thing.
haircut and glasses.
Yeah.
So I'm like, damn, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah, so I really want to paint that Ogroid. I really have already like, ooh, I think I could paint that for large model, Age of Sigmar and Golden Demon. Again, like I have all these models that I'm going to paint for Golden Demon, and I'm not going to get any of them done. I paint slow as shit.
Yep, that's a trick. All these ideas, not enough time.
Yeah.
Welcome to the after party. It's the show after the show. And if you are a patron, nothing happened. It just transitioned into this immediately.
Right. You didn't know that there was a cut.
Oh, yeah. Very, very unexciting. But first thing we're going to do is talk about our favorite miniature that we found. It could be an old or new one. And John, why don't you go first?
All right. So mine is an old one in terms of how long ago it was painted. So this is a miniature by Roman Lapat. And this is in his green period. I don't know if that's what he calls it, but that's what I call it. So
his underglow period too.
Yeah,
that lasted for a long time.
Yeah. He focuses at different points in his career on different colors, and this was in the green phase. And so technically, it's well painted, but what really stands out to me is this mini has no light source coming from above.
Right.
And there's no skin tone painted on this Mini.
Well,
And
there
there's-
is.
Go with me.
Okay.
That is grays, greens and blues, maybe some red, maybe a little bit of reds, purples. But there's no peach, there's no sunny skin tone, there's no Cadian flesh tone, and yet you know it's skin.
Yes.
Because of the ambiance, because of the fact that he's obviously walking through some cavern where there's some crystalline formation or something off screen or whatever it is.
Yes.
That your eye and your mind automatically puts in what you're looking at, even though none of those colors are present.
Yes.
And that's the one thing beyond just looking at a great, OSL, right? I guess there's a secondary light source, or it's actually the primary light source, which isn't the sun here, is technically this is a great reference model to look at.
Yes. I mean, OSL doesn't need to be secondary. It just stands for object source lighting. And
Right.
in this case, the object is these weird caverns.
But beyond that, what really is kind of the next level of painting understanding here is how does that lack of light, or that is your primary or only source, affect the coloration of everything else? And it's not just that everything's green. There's so many other colors on here that aren't green,
Yeah.
and it still works. And you can tell he's in the dark in the cavern. It's not just because a picture was taken on a black backdrop.
That helps, though.
It does help. It does help. But I know he's in some dark area.
Yeah. I think what you said, you nailed it. He has such a mastery of the color.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I mean, like, I don't know. I've said this in the past. It's like, whenever I want to paint a model, it's like, can I envision a story for it? And this is like some barbarian traveling down into the caverns that have ghosts or whites or something in it that have been haunting and messing with his tribe, and he's going to settle the issue. Aragorn going into the caverns, getting what's due him.
What's due him?
What is due?
Getting what is due to him.
Is that what it is?
Just do him.
But yeah, this model has a very clear story in my head, and I freaking love that.
Right. With so little on that piece to tell such a specific story.
Yeah, and you opened this by saying it was technically painted well, and I don't think much of Roman's work is technically painted well. And if you zoom in, you can see brushstrokes and you can see textures that maybe aren't intentional, and it doesn't matter.
Nope.
Because the effect of this model's money shot, which is that first picture in the Instagram carousel, is so freaking good, and it works so well. I'm almost a little bit speechless, which is hard to believe because I talk a lot.
Right. And this kind of transitioned to something that when I was talking about earlier about the tips for becoming an efficient artist, another tip that I learned was that you end up spending 40% of your time on the last 10% of your work. It's kind of a universal number for artists. So why do you spend so much time just at that last 10%? And what they say is you will greatly increase the quality of your first 90% of the work by just not doing the last 10. So if I spend 10 hours painting a Mini, 4 hours of that 10 is just in the last detail stuff.
Right.
Instead, I could spend 6 hours, get it to where it was not 100% polished, but there, and then spend those last 4 hours starting something new. Over time,
Right.
that first 60 or first 6 hours, first 90% are going to get better much quicker.
Yeah.
And that's what Roman does, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of thinking about the long term instead of the short term, right?
Yep.
Everyone wants the thing they're working on right now to be perfect, but no one thinks about just the long journey of, I'm going to be painting models 5 years from now. How do I want to be painting 5 years from now? And so that should affect your approach to miniature painting. That's a good thing to bring up. But yeah, I think Roman does that. I also think he just emphasizes joy a lot. And if he's not having fun or not doing something and it's not bringing him joy, then he probably doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So probably the pedantic parts of miniature painting maybe aren't like what he's interested in, so he just doesn't do it.
Yeah.
It could be a combination of those things or something else.
That's a great point. If that spending those last 4 hours and that last 10% is really what like gets you going and really just like, oh, this is so satisfying. It's really coming together.
Right.
I'm not saying don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, do it, because if that's what you enjoy and that keeps you painting, then that's the whole point.
That's the whole point. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. That's an awesome model.
Would you pick?
I picked a model for my homeboy, Rodrigo Acore.
I assumed you were going to pick one of his this week. I actually almost picked the ogre, and I was like, nah.
I picked that one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't look at yours yet.
I picked the ogre, the one I mentioned earlier in the episode. It's a whip, but there's a lot of fun things I want to talk about. One fun thing is the NMM. What kind of weapon is this? Is this a spear? Is this a spear sword? What do you call this?
Looks like a spear to me.
Okay, just very flat and wide. I mean, maybe it's a spear for an ogre. I like how the shadows of this are dark red. It shows that NMM silver is pretty fluid in terms of what you can use to shade and probably also what you can use to highlight a little bit, and still have a cool silver effect. I hadn't thought about that, but it makes so much sense to kind of just shade with whatever you want. And in this case, he's using warm tones because the model probably is largely a warm tone. And the other thing you can kind of see with this process is that he paints the whole model a dark reddish brown and then kind of works on top of it. But the skin tones are so rich. That helmet is a nice, lovely kind of shiny red, and he's using pink to highlight it, which is kind of like a unspoken no when painting red, but it works so well. I mean, I'm in love with this guy.
Yeah, the thing is he does this great job with his whips of having a couple of really cool elements 100% completed.
Yeah.
Right next to something that's just primed.
Yeah.
And you're like, it just makes the things that are done look even better than they're going to look when the model's all the way done.
Right. And
it's so smart.
This guy, he paints so much. I don't understand. I think all he does is paint miniatures. Because, like, if you go to his, like, this was posted, how many days ago? Does Instagram tell me? 1 day ago?
It was a couple of days ago, I think.
2 days ago. And then we scroll back, and he's painting some new Osiark Bone Reapers now. And this was posted 5 hours ago. And then before that, there was Nurgle Marines. And before that, there was Stormcast Eternal. He's doing NMM on. And before that, there's all these other things. It's like, does this guy ever sleep? This guy paints so much stuff.
He has 356 posts. That's a lot of posts.
Is that a lot?
I mean, I don't know how long he's been on here. I guess that
that depends.
That's the factor involved here. Yeah. All of his stuff is just stupid good. Just go and scroll through his Instagram, guys, and follow him if you don't already, because he'll make you feel crappy about yourself.
But yeah, I love his stuff.
Yeah, he's doing that thing with his blade that Squidmar did a video about.
Yeah.
About where you have the sides shiny and like the center part is matte.
Okay, I have a theory about this.
And I think it's interesting. I also don't. It creates great contrast. It's not realistic at all to me.
It kind of is, right? Because if your weapon's rusty and you sharpen the edge, you don't sharpen the flat, and the rust stays in the flat.
See, I didn't interpret it that it was a rusty blade that you sharpened the edges on.
That's kind of what you see most of the time.
Okay.
It's like a rusty flat. But I mean, you know the real reason people do this, right? Because painting a flat NMM silver thing is hard.
Yeah, and it looks wonky even when done right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. It's a crappy mirror. And so it's like, how do I make a crappy mirror look right? It's a bunch of randomly sized and placed highlights and shadows or something like that. I don't know. I suck at it.
Touche. I didn't think about it that way. But whenever I've had to try to paint those, it just never looks good.
Yeah, like an axe, a flat of an axe is. People always just paint it a solid color because they're like, screw this.
I have to find out how Ben Comments does it. I don't think he does that, but
okay,
maybe he does, and I just never really paid attention.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, when the edge is so shiny and blingy, you don't really care to look at anything else, right?
Exactly.
All right, next part. We are looking at a patron's finished Guild Ball team, the Farmers from Game Glazing Guru. I don't know what their patron name is because I'm a trash can, and I didn't in the form. I wasn't accepting people's names as part of the entry. That's been fixed for a bit now. So I don't know who actually submitted this, but that's what their name on Instagram is. We got some farmers.
Oh, I just pulled up the wrong one. I pulled up the one. Okay. Yes, I picked this one out because I thought they were really cool, and I thought that we'd have some cool stuff to talk about with these.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I love that he did crop rows, man. It's freaking awesome. They're farmers. They're in the field. You can see where the hose went through.
Yes.
Also the implements.
A little bit of crackle medium too on the base on some of those rows.
Yeah, to make it look like it's dry there. It hasn't rained recently. Mm-hmm. Yet somehow your pumpkins are big and luscious.
That's the first bit of critique. It's not realistic.
Right, not realistic. I think I can't tell if he sculpted. I'm guessing he didn't sculpt the pumpkin ball, but the other stuff on the bases, there's cabbages, stuff like
some
that.
Smaller pumpkins too.
There's a squash, smaller pumpkins. Like, if you sculpted those, man, good job. Those look great. Again, continuing the theme.
Yeah. It's a little hard to give feedback because it's a picture of an entire squad of dudes, but the first thing I'll say is the entire squad is painted, other than the captain, with NMM blue, NMM weapons and whatnot. And I'm going to look at the scythe on the right of the photo predominantly. And when I see this, it looks like stone. And this is the problem with NMM, is that it's really tricky to get the distribution of lights correct to the point where it looks like a reflective object.
Yes.
Now he may have been going for wrought iron, because oftentimes scythes are actually made out of wrought iron. I know this because I recently watched an Alex Steele video about making a scythe. Very strange circumstance. But I think if you were going for wrought iron, blue was probably an inappropriate color, because the impression with blue is that you're reflecting the sky, right? That's why steels are blue sometimes. And so if you're using blue, but it also looks like stone, it's like, I'm confused. So for gaming miniatures and NMM, I did it for my Guild Ball team too. The trick is, and you probably have something to say about this, getting quick results with NMM. It's all about just getting huge swings in contrast on the model without fussing about blending a whole lot. And so I think that scythe is in need. So it needed some super bright highlights that are kind of randomly placed along the edge of the blade.
Even from the side of the blade, because that's not parallel to the light source. I actually think you'd want it to be, the top of that blade would be quite a bit darker, because it's not hitting any light from the sky above. But then after you do that, you can take some bright, there's obviously some nicks and some scratches I can see on that blade. You want to hit those with a really bright highlight, because that's bing, just a little bit of the bright sun is hitting those. And then suddenly that will read as shiny metal. I think it's a great practice. Like, he did it on all of these. You can tell that he's learning on as he's going on this. But I guarantee if he did one tonight, it would look even better, because you put the hours in to do a lot of models with that technique, which I commend that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The first, if I'm looking for something to critique, the very first thing is the easiest thing to fix here.
You gonna say base rims?
I'm gonna say base rims. I want those base rims to be black.
I think he made an intentional choice.
I think he did too.
And you're saying it doesn't look good?
It's distracting to me. If you wanted it, like, yes, I agree with you. It was likely conscious decision. I would have liked it to have been a crisp, clear, singular color.
Yeah.
Even if it was like that darker brown or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like not all base trims need to be black. Like I like to paint all base trims black. If you wanted to use kind of more of a brown color, that's totally fine too, and you could have done that.
Mm-hmm. I think he's technically really some crisp work. You know, he's got good definition of his different surfaces. You know, that they don't like blur together. He's got good lining between like scarf and shirt and bracers and tool belt. Like everything feels like it's properly defined.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time saying what's wrong with it because as a unit they just look so good together. And so like, you know, not everything you paint needs to be absolutely amazing. And these guys all function really well as a team together. And I think you should definitely be proud of this result because it looks good.
I think the chickens look great.
Yeah, the chicken.
Dude, like it's a
That's
like
the
it seems like a
mascot.
simple thing, but the two hens on the ground, their highlight and the color that's kind of the base underneath them, it looks realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably wasn't a ton of layers or a ton of time to do that, but he made them look real. So good job, man.
Maybe you could make these farmers a little bit dirtier.
Sure.
I'm trying to look at their boots, and maybe there's a little bit of dirt going on here, but you know, farmers are hardworking people that aren't afraid to get a little dirty. So some dry pigments on their feet. You can take some dry pigments and mix it with like Vallejo still water or Mod Podge Dimensional Magic to get more of a muddy effect if you want to go for that, if you're not going for an arid look. But just in general, kind of dirtying them up would make thematic sense.
Cool. Yeah, I think that would be a quick little addition that would make a lot of improvements.
Not too bad, for gaming stuff.
Really good. Yeah.
All right, on to the last part of the after parte, a new thing that we have experimented with in the last 2 weeks or prior.
Okay.
What was that?
Opera. Marriage.
It's what brings that together today.
So my thing is something that probably of everybody watching and listening has already done, and this is just my first foray. About 2 months ago, maybe more, I did an eBay salvage.
Okay.
I needed to buy some more Banshees, and I got like $50 worth of Banshees for $20 on eBay.
Nice.
They're all painted already, and like garbage.
Is this a plastic model thing or
yes,
model thing?
they're plastic.
Okay.
Already painted. So I'm like, cool. I'm gonna just simple green these suckers, and it's gonna be fine. It is not.
Simple green sucks.
I had them. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you this story to tell you the previous story. So,
Okay.
I have. If you've ever been to a barber shop or a salon studio, mostly barber shop, they have these things that they keep
Barbicide.
They keep the brushes.
The combs
in. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it says Barbicide on it.
Mine doesn't have a thing on it.
Okay.
I have one of those.
Oh, cool.
Because it's got a cool little it's got a tray at the bottom that you can lift it up.
Yeah.
And then you can take the stuff out. I'm like, when my local game store first expanded, they actually kicked down the wall and took over the space that there was a salon studio next door. And I was over there as their expansion it was going on, and they're like doing demo, and they're showing me like, oh, this, blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, man, these guys left a lot of crap behind. And the owner's like, yeah, if you see anything you want, you just take it because I'm going to have to throw it all away anyway. So that was on the counter, and I took it with the distinct purpose of stripping models.
You know what else would be good for? Cleaning 3D prints, resin prints.
Oh, yeah.
Put some isopropyl alcohol in there, dip it, pick it up. Yeah. Anyways,
Dunkaroo.
go on.
So this was the first time I actually got to use it.
Okay.
And I put them in there, I don't know, 2 months.
2 months.
Because I I have them in there, and then I give them a little Dunkaroo and see
a
how
little shake.
Yeah, let some of the paint come off, and I pull them up, and I try to I want to be able to rub my finger over it.
Yep.
And the paint comes up.
Good luck.
Does not happen.
Does not happen.
Finally, after I think we're probably closing in on 3 months. This was just recently. I took them out. I'm like, I got to deal with these things because I'm going to finish my basement, and something's going to happen. That whole thing's going to get tipped over, glass shattered, simple green everywhere. Banshees are going to be amok. So I took them out, and after the first one, I just threw them all away. I was so pissed off. They look like shit.
Yeah. One thing I found with simple green is that it sucks, number one. Number two, don't rinse it off in water and then start hitting it with a brush. Pull it out of the simple green and then just start scrubbing it.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, good. I found that when you rinse it in water, it just like almost kind of like solidifies the paint back to the surface.
Sure.
I don't understand why that happens, but that was a thing. But yeah.
So this was, I mean, I remember early on when I first started, I did simple green a old metal mini, and that worked pretty well.
Okay.
Like you can be a lot more rough on a metal mini and get all the crap out.
Okay.
And the paint wasn't on there that long.
Yeah.
I don't know how long these Banshees had paint on them. And the dude had like 4 coats of paint, and the primer was, I think it was enamel or something. It wasn't sometimes if you prime with an aerosol too, I feel like there's something else in there.
Yeah.
That crap
some
just
binding agent
does not come off, especially if it's for your house or Krylon or something.
Yeah.
Like that stuff just
primer
does not come off. It didn't come off.
So Goobertown Hobbies has a video. It's actually his first video ever about testing various stripping liquids against various types of paint, water-based acrylics, this hardcore spray enamel, other things, and to see which one works the best. He tested Simple Green, LA's Totally Awesome, Purple Power, Isopropyl Alcohol, maybe like 2 others. And the one he liked the most was, or rather the one that worked the best seemingly was Purple Power. And what I've read about Simple Green is that they've changed their formula maybe to like have some kind of FDA compliance or something. And the thing that was removed was the agent that was really good at stripping paint. And so now people are going out and buying 2-gallon containers of Simple Green, and it's like, this is garbage. It is garbage. And I had the same experience. I had an Archon that I wanted to strip. I put it in Simple Green for months, periodically taking it out, hitting it with a toothbrush. It was just this miserable experience.
It's like such a freaking waste of time.
Yeah. And then, I mean, for pewter models, if you ever need to strip a pewter model, just use acetone. You want that experience of rubbing paint right off? It does it. In like
so satisfying.
10 minutes.
Wow.
It's great. And you get a nice clean model at the end.
Yeah. So there's moral of the story. Every new thing that we do is not necessarily going to be new to you. That's just, that's new to me.
Yeah. Yeah. New to me, I used, so a while back I was sent a snow product from a company called Precision Ice and Snow, and the snow is called like Chrysal, and I used it in kind of like a quick and dirty kind of dismissive way. I was like, whatever, try this out. And I mentioned that it came with a pamphlet, like a 20-page book about how to use the product. And so I read it, a lot of it. About
some of it.
No, like a lot of it, like 15 or so pages. Some of it was like, okay, this doesn't apply to me, I'll just leaf through it. But I took one of the methods for application and did it on that Igloo. If you've watched the video, you've seen this already. But it comes with an adhesive to use that you can actually use in your airbrush. But it's that if you want like a more hardcore bond, that's like for gaming, consider using something else. And one of the examples I had was hairspray. And so I used hairspray to adhere this like 28 millimeter scale snow. And I applied it with a drain catcher, almost like a sieve, I could put it in and tapped it, like almost like confectionery sugar. And the problem that I had before with this product was that because it's so fine, it just gets freaking everywhere, and it kills the contrast on so many things because a very light coating of like essentially white pigment is covering it. So it's like a translucent film, and it kills the contrast. And it did it on that base that I used it on, and it did it on my goddamn Igloos again. So I love the effect that it has on the areas where I wanted it to go. It's nice and sparkly. It looks like freshly fallen snow. And so the lesson that I think I learned here was that maybe put it down before you are gonna paint stuff. So it's like, okay, you have a few stages. You have, okay, make the construction, maybe do some quick painting, some base coats, put this snow down, then do some more fine painting and kind of really try to figure it out. Because I tried to dust it off like with an airbrush, and I tried to like kind of get a toothbrush in there and wipe it off, and I could not restore the original contrast for whatever reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's just really sticky, but that sucked.
That you probably your hairspray probably still was.
Yeah.
It still probably coated everything a little bit, and that stuff being so fine, it don't take much for it to
right
down there.
Yes, I tried to spray it from one side of the igloo and then apply the snow on one side of the igloo. But maybe I kind of clouded around and that happened. Maybe that's why I'll try a different adhesive maybe and try it again. 'Cause I like the effect, but I don't like what it does to the paint.
It was funny when I watched the video, and you start off with a shot of showing it from above with the drifts. I'm like, oh my God, the snow drift looks amazing.
Yeah.
And then you slowly turn it, and I go audibly, aw.
Yeah, the other
you
side,
can see how it just fucked the whole other side.
It's like this baby blue color, and I was like, oh crap.
Damn it. And you did kind of have to bring it back with bringing the colors into the shadows from the other side too. And,
Yeah.
And that ended up looking pretty good, but you had to probably put another couple more hours into what it was looking like before the snow.
Yeah.
Well, was that stuff expensive?
I mean, I got it for free, so.
I mean, if I wanted to get some, or somebody that's watching or listening wants to get some, do you know how much it costs?
No, I have no idea.
Because like I envision like a 3-part mini snow process with a 20-page booklet. It's probably not cheap.
Yeah, it's probably not super cheap, but I mean, it's a bag of snow and some glue, and then you can buy some of the other products if you want. It's not going to be like more than $20.
Okay, I guess that's probably fair.
Yeah,
a little pot of Valhalla ice from GW costs like $8.
Yeah, what the heck? I mean, they got those big tall pots now, though, right? Yeah, that's at least you get that.
Yeah, it's something.
All right. Welcome to the end of another episode of Trapped Under Plastic. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. We've been getting just so many wonderful comments from people about just how the podcast is so nice to listen to while they're hobbying. And, you know, I edit the majority of these, and whenever I listen to myself talk, I'm like, I just sound like a douchebag all the time. And so it's nice to not get a lot of comments about, wow, you're a douchebag. Maybe it's because the podcast isn't like big yet, and the bigger it gets, then those comments will come out.
But now that you mention it, now people are going to go out of their way.
Actually, yeah, you are a douchebag, Scott.
Right. I just need to be justified in putting it in writing, and you just did that.
Well, so you're welcome. But yeah, I mean, no douchebag comments yet, but lots of really nice comments. So we really thank you for that. If you guys want to support the podcast, you can do so by contributing money on Patreon, and you get access to an extended episode of the podcast. You get the opportunity for us to give feedback to your miniatures, and you also get the ability to submit topics for us to discuss in an episode, and we will credit you because we are taking your names down now.
For reals this time. For reals.
But yeah, give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Tell your nerd friends about the podcast, and anything else, Johnny boy?
We got shirts.
Oh, we got shirts. John is wearing one right now. You can find them on Teespring, linked in the show notes and also the description.
Pretty sexy shirts.
Yeah, the logo done by a very talented person. It was awesome.
Yeah, great artist. Did you say join the Facebook group?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah, join the Facebook group. Hang out with us there. Share what you're working on in the last 2 weeks, just like we are doing. Also, either in the comments below or out in the Facebook group, if you try the every day put paint on a paintbrush, let me know after a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever. Did it work? So
awesome.
Until next time, see
you
ya
later.
See you on the flippity flop.